This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Dear Ms. Combs, I've taken the time to thoroughly read your letter. It's filled with heartfelt sentiment and the unmistakable love of a mother. You speak of devastation, heartbreak, and the agony of watching your son, Sean Diddy Combs, face a barrage of accusations. You express disbelief at what you call a public lynching, and you suggest that your son's reputation is being unfairly torn apart. You even go so far as to liken his plight to that of those wrongfully convicted, suggesting that Sean is being judged not for the truth, but for a narrative built on lies. You attempt to position him as a victim, a man who has made mistakes, but who is now unjustly being vilified by a public eager to tear him down. But let's pause for a moment and really look at the substance of your letter, because beneath all the emotional appeals, what you're really doing is trying to rewrite reality. You're trying to turn the spotlight away from the disturbing accusations against your son, accusations backed by video evidence, witness testimony, and a pattern of behavior that spans decades, and instead make this about the injustice he is supposedly suffering. Let me be clear. This letter is not about Sean's innocence or guilt. This letter is about your refusal to confront the truth. You open by expressing your devastation, and I don't doubt that you are heartbroken. After all, watching your son face charges as serious as sex trafficking, racketeering, and transporting individuals for prostitution must be a nightmare for any parent. But your pain doesn't change the facts. And no matter how many times you repeat that this is all a product of lies, it doesn't erase what's been brought to light. The countless allegations from women who have stepped forward, the video of your son physically assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and the well-documented abuses of power that paint Sean not as a victim, but as an alleged predator. You claim your son deserves his day in court. Well, let's not pretend that's being denied. Sean will get his day in court. He'll have his army of high-powered attorneys, his expensive legal defense, and he'll be afforded every right under the law. What you seem upset about is that the public, having seen the video of your son violently grabbing Cassie by the neck and dragging her down a hallway, has already formed an opinion. And frankly, can you blame them? That video isn't a narrative created out of lies, Ms. Combs. It's a brutal, painful reality that your son has yet to truly answer for. Now, you go on to admit that your son may not have been entirely truthful about getting violent with an ex-girlfriend. That's quite the understatement, don't you think? He wasn't just not truthful, Ms. Combs. He lied. And he didn't just lie about something minor. He lied about an act of physical abuse that was caught on camera, plain as day. You describe this as though it's some complicated entanglement of truth and falsehood, as though we're all supposed to understand that it's not quite so black and white. But let's be honest, it's not complicated at all. He abused her. We all saw it. You've seen it. There's no complicated truth to explain away here. What's truly staggering, though, is how you then go on to claim that the civil settlement with Cassie was not an admission of guilt, but rather a way to avoid the complicated truth. Really? Settling a lawsuit for millions of dollars is usually a pretty clear sign that someone doesn't want the full truth to come out. Your son didn't settle that case because the truth was too hard to explain. He settled because the truth would have been devastating for his public image. And you, Ms. Combs, know this. Yet here you are, trying to reframe it as if the settlement was somehow proof of Sean's integrity, as if throwing money at the problem was the honorable thing to do. It's not. Now, let's talk about your attempt to compare Sean's situation to those who have been wrongfully convicted. You invoke the idea that many innocent people have been imprisoned not because they were guilty, but because society didn't see them as good people. Ms. Combs, this is not one of those cases. Sean Combs is not some poor, disenfranchised individual who's been railroaded by the justice system. He's a multimillionaire with immense power and influence, and he's been able to escape accountability for years precisely because of that and influence. He is not the victim of a system that failed him. He's a man who allegedly used his status to exploit and harm others. To compare his plight to that of those wrongfully convicted is not only insulting, it's deeply disingenuous. You speak about the world turning against your son, about how quickly and easily people have made him the subject of jokes and scorn. But Ms. Combs, this isn't happening in a vacuum. The world didn't suddenly decide to target Sean out of nowhere. The reason people are turning against him is because they've seen the evidence. They've heard the stories. They've seen the patterns of abuse, manipulation, and coercion. You want to paint this as a case of Sean being unfairly targeted. But the truth is, this is a case of the world finally seeing who he really is. And that's not because of lies or false accusations. It's because the truth, as ugly as it is, has finally come out. Now, let's address the part of your letter where you claim that these accusations are all motivated by people seeking financial gain. This is one of the oldest and most tired defenses in the book. Whenever powerful men are accused of sexual misconduct, their defenders immediately claim that the women are just out for money. But let me remind you, your son has been accused by multiple women over the course of many years. Are they all lying? Are they all just looking for a payday? Is that really what you want us to believe? Because that's a pretty convenient excuse, isn't it? To dismiss the pain, trauma, and suffering of these women by simply writing them off as gold diggers is not only lazy, it's offensive. And it's a tactic used by every abuser who doesn't want to face the truth. Let's get to the real heart of this letter. What you're truly afraid of, Ms. Combs, isn't the loss of your son's dignity or his opportunity for a fair trial. What you're truly afraid of is the collapse of the empire that he's built, an empire that you've undoubtedly benefited from. This is about money. This is about power. This is about preserving the lifestyle that being Sean Combs' mother has afforded you. You talk about the pain of watching your son's life crumble, but what about the pain of the women whose lives he's allegedly torn apart? What about Cassie? What about the other women who have come forward with their stories? Their lives have been shattered, but you don't seem too concerned about that, do you? Your focus is solely on Sean and what he stands to lose. And let's be honest, you're terrified that once Sean loses his empire, you'll lose everything too. You ask for people to withhold judgment until Sean has had the chance to tell his side. But Ms. Combs, Sean has had years to tell his side. He's had years to come clean about his behavior. Instead, he's used his wealth and power to silence those who dared to speak out against him. He settled lawsuits to keep the truth from coming out. He manipulated the narrative to protect his public image. And now, when the evidence is finally too overwhelming to ignore, you want us to give him the benefit of the doubt? I'm sorry, but the time for that has long passed. The truth is, your son isn't the victim here. The real victims are the women he allegedly abused, manipulated, and controlled. The real victims are the people who have lived in fear of his power, who have been silenced and intimidated into submission. The real victims are the ones who have had to carry the weight of the trauma he inflicted on them, while he continued to live a life of luxury and fame. And now, as that life begins to unravel, you want us to feel sorry for him? No, Ms. Combs, that's not going to happen. You see, this letter isn't really about justice or fairness. It's about protecting your son's legacy. It's about preserving the empire that has allowed you to live in comfort and privilege. It's about keeping up appearances even as the truth crashes down around you. But here's the thing. The truth doesn't care about appearances. The truth doesn't care about Sean's wealth or his fame or the lifestyle you've become accustomed to. The truth is that your son is facing the consequences of his actions, and no amount of hand-wringing or public relations spin is going to change that. So, Ms. Combs, you can continue to write letters defending your son. You can continue to paint him as the victim in all of this. But the world sees what's really happening. The world sees Sean for what he truly is, a man who, for years, believed he could escape accountability because of his power and influence. And now, finally, that accountability is catching up to him. Your son will have his day in court. He'll have the opportunity to defend himself, to tell his side of the story, but don't expect the public to look the other way. Don't expect us to forget what we've seen, what we've heard, and what we know to be true. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about Sean's reputation or his legacy. This is about justice for the people he's hurt. And justice, Ms. Combs, is long overdue.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface,
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
where hidden killers roam unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Bruschi as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.